How are you doing?
Pretty good. Actually, kind of funny. Today we don't got Storm with us. We've got Caden. Caden's a good buddy of ours. Introduce yourself, Caden.
So my name is Caden, and it is probably one of the biggest honors of my life to be on this podcast. I'm just gonna say that right now. It's not even just to be on the podcast, but I from what I heard, I'm the first guest. Is that right?
That is true.
Yeah.
Yep, you are our first guest. So,
What do you do, Caden? Tell us what you do.
What do I do? Well, Lewis, I do a lot of things, do a lot of marketing, personal branding for influencers on social media, on the interwebs. So hopefully I have some interesting opinions to add to our discussions today and looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
We almost told Caden he couldn't join the podcast because during our prep meeting yesterday, he indicated to us that he has not watched a full episode of Fast Forward. And that's a bit like,
and this
do you
is
even
the
care
biggest
about us?
Yeah, is this the biggest honor of your life, or are you doing this?
Do you even care about this audience?
I'll say I didn't want to come into this with any expectations. Like, I knew this moment was going to happen. I'm just going to be honest. I didn't want to watch every episode and know all your what you do and what you say and what Storm would do. I just wanted to come into it as something fresh. I wanted to be fresh,
dude,
as I came in.
That's like some con man level response.
Yeah.
The fact that he just spun the fact he spun not supporting his friends into. I
respect you more.
It's for the viewers. I just cared about the viewers. I wanted to add something fresh
and
fresh and fast
your
forward.
response was honestly good. I'm not mad about your response.
You should be a politician.
That was very political, dude. That's very political.
That was very political. I can't even believe that.
Here's some interesting tidbit. Last night, me, Lewis, and Caden got into a group call, and oh my God, I'm burping. Got these ahas on the set today.
Aha.
Getting me carbonated. We bought tickets to the Boston Celtics Bucks Game 5 game at the TD Garden.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm not a basketball fan really, but it's going to be fun to just be there and absorb the energy.
Should we just quickly tell the viewers what happened before though?
Yeah,
should
why
we
not?
Should we tell them the L that we took?
Well, here's the thing. That's actually the reason why a previous episode didn't go down the way it was supposed to. Because I was scheduled to be gone, not last week, the week before.
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to be gone with Caden, just me and Caden, to go see Game 5 in Boston. Same thing against the Nets. And Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and the rest of the fucking L squad.
Oh.
They could not win a single game. And they had forced me and Caden to miss the game after we had purchased flights, accommodations,
and tickets, which was the biggest.
Yeah. And you know what they said about you after the game? They said that we're glad that Caden and Lee couldn't make it tonight.
Bro, I think that's why they didn't try to win the fourth one. They're like, you know what? There's a couple of Canadians that are going to Boston, and we want to throw a wrench in their plans.
The Fast Forward podcast, it needs to happen next week with Caden.
That's actually probably why they probably didn't want to cancel the podcast. Kyrie was like, "Yo, episode 11 has to happen on schedule."
I just didn't like how they were very much teasing us, meaning every game the Nets could have or should have won at one point. Where I was at Lee's house, Game 4, and I think with 60 seconds left in the game, the Nets were down by 1 point, and I think even Kevin Durant in that moment was like, "We're not gonna win," but he just wanted to tease us a little, titillate us.
They didn't want to get on the plane and go back to Boston. They were just they had given up, and even the first game, the Celtics should have lost, but they had a last-second buzzer beater layup.
Wow.
So anyway, it worked out for the better because now we're not seeing round 1 of the playoffs. We're watching round 2. We're watching a better team.
And the best part is Lewis is now coming.
Lewis is now coming. I was going to get to that. The cherry on top is now there's 3 of us going.
I love that.
And it's a little bit less romantic for me and Caden.
Yeah, we have other trips planned we won't talk about, but.
And I feel like I got kind of butt out of this situation because we were talking about accommodations and the two of them are just so excited to share a bed. And it does feel like there's maybe a physical chemistry between you two that's a bit stronger than.
All I'm going to say is what happens in Boston
stays in Boston.
That's right.
Love that.
What happens in Boston stays busted.
What?
Speaking of which, why don't we just run the intro?
Yeah, let's get into this podcast. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Fast Forward podcast. I'm your co-host, Lee.
I'm your co-host, Lewis, and welcome to the fastest growing Canadian tech podcast in the universe.
This week, we're going to be talking about space, crypto, and post-pandemic business changes.
We'll also be talking about Lego today, as well as go back to the past to talk about space.
Well, Lewis, this week, we didn't have our producer. I had to do an all-day workshop. It's been a busy week for me. I don't know what's going on. So why don't I let you just take the lead and bring us into our first topic/story.
Yeah, absolutely. So this might be the biggest business fail ever. Okay. So
let me hear it.
Teladoc Health. Have you ever heard of them before?
I have.
So for all the people who are not familiar, Teladoc Health is one of the leaders when it comes to the telemedicine. Almost everyone during the pandemic has probably virtually called their doctor or have done something similar to it. But their stock last week tanked by over 40%. 40%. That's a fail.
That's more than 30.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Just less than 50 though. So it's believed that one reason that it failed is that people are returning to the physical waiting rooms. So, I mean, the pandemic, is it over or is it not? I mean, that's kind of like up for debate, but people are going back to the physical waiting rooms now. And another is the goodwill impairment charge. So I actually had to look this one up. I am not too familiar with the investment lingo, but goodwill is the difference between what a company buys another company for. So, you know, there's so much that people buy a company for its hype, for its branding, whatever, versus how much is worth on paper. So Teladoc, like during the pandemic, made large purchases of competitors during the pandemic, and now they're struggling to integrate with softwares as well as advance in this extremely growing competitive area. You know, Zoom, having some telemedicine options as well. And so they're basically, that goodwill impairment charge is just so massive that it caused it to tank. So guys, what is the future of telemedicine? Is this just a little blip that is happening, or do we think that this is a long-term change that's going to happen?
2 words. Metadoc.
Metadoc.
Not Teladoc.
META.
Meta.
Metadoc.
Metaverse.
Metaverse doctors.
Because, like, here's the thing. Zooming your doctor sucks.
Yeah.
Lewis and I have a unique experience.
Zooming doctors suck. Like, Zooming just in general sucks.
Yeah. And it's like they can't see you. You can't. It's not very personal. You know what I mean? And the thing is, when you're seeing a doctor on Zoom, it's like you guys both have the same level of detail. Like, I can see their face, they can see my face, but really I don't need to see the doc. They need to see me.
Yeah.
So one of the issues that a lot of cities are having now is that the docs are living in certain areas because they want to live there, but they're not necessarily proportionate to where the people are that need them. So there's like huge regions, ours included, that have a lack of doctors, and they even have like lobby groups that have like formed, and they get funding to go and recruit doctors to come live here and work here. In our community, there's like tens of thousands of dollars spent every year to do this. A place where I could walk into a room that's like fully mapped, you know, HTC vibe wise, and I can't see the doctor. Like,
and does like a 3D scan.
Well, in real time, like everything that I am is like visible. So the doctor is maybe an avatar, and I put on the 3D headset, the VR headset, and I see him. And the thing is, if I can't see his mole to see if it's cancerous or not, or if he can't stick out his tongue and show me the back of his throat, that doesn't matter because he's not the patient, he's the doctor. Yeah. But like, if I could see this avatar and he can like walk around me and take a look and ask me to raise my hand and turn it around, that to me is a lot better than.
I mean, a lot of it is based off of feel as well. Because with Zoom, you arguably can, if you just had an HD camera, you could get that same level of view. I feel like a lot of it has to come to touch as well, you know, because like when you touch, like, I don't know, like when you touch a sore or something, you can identify if that is that. And you can't, I mean, you're right. That's kind of like a cool concept for sure, but that seems so distant. I also think that being able to see the doctor, even though I don't need to see the doctor, being able to see the doctor in my stupid psychological brain gives me a bit of safety. It makes me feel safe, you know?
What if he was an avatar? Like he was like animated.
So that's what I was going to say is like, so much of our communication though is based off of body language, right? Like when you show something to the doctor and he goes, like he gives that face, even though he knows that like he's not going to verbalize what he's thinking sometimes because he shouldn't, but you can kind of read his body language, right? Yeah. I just wonder how that would translate through an avatar.
Yeah, you go to the doctor to see if there's like a lump on your skin that you think might be cancerous, and then his avatar's just like. And he's like, and then you look at him like, what the fuck?
Shocked emoji pops up over his face.
And he's like, he's just smiling.
Puke emoji.
What do you mean? And it's like, Doc, you know, there's eye tracking, right? Like I can see that you're like this.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh shit. You know, that would be a bad way to figure it out.
Yeah. What's trippy though, too. I mean, because like it's something that is going to be like a growing pain for a lot of people, but we are in that stage where like that would be so weird. I just know that if I saw a 3D doctor like come up to me with that like smiling little face like this, and it's going like, "Hello, Lewis, I am Doctor," whatever. Yeah, I'll come over and inspect you, and you're like, "What the hell?" Like to me, that is scary.
Yo.
Like, but that's again, some people are going to be more comfortable with that in the future.
Because the benefit of it as well, probably a smaller benefit, but obviously, like when you go to see your physician, for the most part, a lot of people are congregating together that are ill, which would transmit things like COVID or diseases or so forth. Versus like, okay, if you're sick and you need to stay home, you can still see your doctor
in isolation.
In isolation.
You know what I just thought about though? So you're right, and I was just kind of more joking
for sure
in regards to like seeing your doctor as an avatar. It's a funny concept, but in a real one, like there are other types of medical practices like counseling and therapy that have moved from physical to digital, but in the form of like chats, phone calls, and Zooms. And I think that would be really. Could you imagine going and laying on the psychiatrist's like chair?
Yeah,
and then I think also talking to an avatar rather than a person. I feel like you'd just be able to share more. You know, they don't know who you are. Like they can't see you. Like you could tell them anything.
You know how like they're creating virtual worlds with your voice? Could you imagine the therapist was like, "Now, Lee, face your fears. Spawn spiders everywhere."
Yeah. Like therapy could, you're not even like Lewis, you're on something real here. And any of our entrepreneurial listeners, this is really something like not just therapy, not just like telecommunications, like not just connecting a therapist and a patient in a room in a VR space, but giving the therapist ways to do new types of therapy. Like therapy where it's like pictures and immersion and 3D elements and fears, shock, like really like it's taking therapy and making it an app.
I can see like a bunch of Washington Post articles or something like that saying like how my therapist shocked and abused me through VR.
Through VR.
Imagine if you could like, this might be dark, but like recreate memories. Like if you had like a traumatic experience and you could like go back into it, but then have someone guide you and like emotionally help you through
navigate it, right? Yeah. Like if the therapist does the research and after a few sessions is like, "Hey, Lee, we've been doing this is a 7th or 8th visit. That traumatic experience you described about, that car accident. I've actually had the team at insert name of startup work on an experience, and it's ready for us to demo. And basically, I'm going to sit in the passenger seat with you, and we're going to go through it if you're feeling comfortable." And I'm like, "You know what? Let's do it." And then the therapy begins. Listen, I don't know shit about therapy, but I know they're doing.
Oh, that's I'm kind of laughing right now because the concept of it.
I'm thinking of funny scenarios. Sorry, it's a good thing. It could be cool.
Yeah, no, and it's just funny to think because my vision of the metaverse is kind of like is so corny, right? But realistically speaking, it is incredible to think because that's how you get over these traumatic experiences is by like putting a new perspective on it. So when you are even in the lightest way, like think about how PTSD works, right? A dog barks and a veteran is the one that's getting traumatized that way. So it's even just similar, but
this is real.
Immersed. This is real.
This is real shit. Because
cut this out of the podcast. We're starting this.
Yeah, this is crazy. Because like you know what, the put it in the podcast. We don't have enough listeners. If anything, this will just be fun tidbit later on.
Yeah.
No, because like even a lot of therapists, like they say they love the access that digital gives them because now they can get people anywhere in the world and people that are uncomfortable to come in person, and it gives access. But then they lose interactivity. So if you got a kid, right, and I've seen, again, I'm not an expert, but I've seen the movies, and the therapist will bring out like 3 toys and then like watch and see what the kid picks. Because like what the kid picks,
like the Rorschach test,
like tests like
what
that.
What you see in this picture,
what you see exactly, and they lose the interactivity. And when they do the Zooms and stuff, because they don't have the games and all that stuff. And sure, you could probably find virtual, but then there's a mouse and keyboard. It's not the same. If they could do a VR thing, like you could have all those same experiences with also the unlimited access, with also point blank foundational main thing. Some people dead ass don't want to walk into a therapist and see the therapist.
Dude,
and this will literally make it so you have an avatar you can hide behind. The male or female therapist is safe, physically safe, because you can't attack them or nothing. Right?
Yeah, I've seen The Sopranos. That happens.
Yeah, right. So I think there's something here,
dude. I'm like dead ass like inspired to do something. I think that's something that you can do. Like that is something that we can 3D VR therapist tools
with activities. So it's foundationally built on spaces, metaverse spaces with interaction, and then the software allows them to do therapist designed and developed by our team experiences.
You said meta talk.
Dude. Anyway, I guess to circle back to your original question, this is exactly the type of like new ideas that telemedicine is.
So do you think this is just a blip? Like you think Teladoc because they are the leaders right now when it comes to this kind of innovation, when it comes to telemedicine, do you think that this just might be a blip for them?
So my opinion on this business as a whole is they've had a number of controversies, some controversies that are related to HR and also controversies to corporate due diligence. From what I've heard about them, they're also in a space that's highly competitive and dealing with personal health information. I see basically what happens is a fragmentation of the whole medical telemedicine sector, tons and tons of apps that are hyper niching. And then I see a amalgamation of the biggest sharks basically buying out all the competition. And I don't think those are the ones that are the most innovative. I think it's the ones that have the most capital power and are the best managed. And Teladoc is not managed very well. It sounds like financially they're not in the best situation. Yep. So I think probably someone will buy Teladoc at a discount. And I don't think this is going to be like the winner of the race.
Yeah.
That's my stance. Like good management's so key here.
Yeah, absolutely. Caden.
I just think we're too early in the process right now, right? The technology isn't fully there to do what they're trying to do. It's so early. I just know the few experiences I've had with virtual healthcare, I felt pointless, where it was just basically like, okay, yeah, this is basically a person telling me what I could have found on Google and then referring me back to a physical location. So I was just like, what was even the point of that?
Even think about too, though, is that right now we're in this period where the innovation has happened, but now we're desperate to get back to what we're used to, considering the traumatic 2 years that we went through. So I do think that now people are going to start understanding that going virtual for almost everything is now our new comfortable. So we're for most people, I would assume over the next 5-10 years, especially that's where innovation seems to be going. So for Teladoc specifically, I'm not entirely sure. I like your analogy there, where I think they're just going to get fragmented into the market much more into smaller pieces. But I do think that this innovation is going to continue to climb.
Yeah, there's some truth to, yes, it feels pointless when you do the call, but what also feels pointless is when you drive, let's say you're not in Sarnia and you're in a bigger city, 30 minutes, pay for parking, walk into your doctor's office, wait there for, Jesus Christ, the air coming out of my esophagus right now. You wait there for 30 minutes and then you go into the doctor for 2 minutes and then he rushes you out the door. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Speaking of digital, Wikipedia has stopped accepting crypto payments.
Why?
This is something that Wikipedia did that is absolutely nuts. They stopped accepting cryptocurrency as a form of donation.
Why would you turn away donations? You know what I mean? Someone's giving you money. You're saying, hey, I don't want it like that.
Yeah.
I've had that experience before with a couple of homeless people where I was like, hey, here's a bagel. And they're like, I would have preferred the money.
Damn.
They didn't want dude, the bagel's free. I paid for it. I'm not asking you to pay for it. Take it.
He's like, I would have preferred Ethereum.
Here's my crypto wallet. Anyway, go ahead.
So less than 1% of donations were from crypto. So they weren't even making much. It was pretty sure it was 0.01%. So it was very small amount of donations, but it wasn't about the financial aspect. It was about them doing it because of the cost that crypto has on the environment. So we've seen lots of articles about how crypto is really bad for the environment. Wikimedia responded to feedback from users on Twitter who wanted them to stop accepting crypto payments. And I guess it made sense for them because they can just, get good PR move or something.
They're already getting so little, right? It just seemed.
So, but this is also taking a trend in a lot of different businesses as well, especially the nonprofit area, especially in tech. So Mozilla has also chose to stop accepting crypto payments as well. So my question for you guys is, when or if this changes in terms of crypto being better for the environment, do you think these companies will respond by bringing them back, or will they always be skeptical of bringing them?
So what I want to just add here quick is 1% is actually $1.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it was less than 1%. I think it was like zero. I think they made $130,000 total.
Okay. So repeat your question.
I was just wondering, so when this whole crypto, if it changes to being a better environmentally friendly, etc., do you think companies will want to bring them back, or do you think crypto is always going to have this divide that it has right now?
No, I definitely won't. It definitely won't always have what it has now. I think it will only go up. It will only improve the sentiment, and I think the overall environmental impact of fiat currencies is kind of hard to track, and the crypto is so easy to track because it's so directly correlated. So that's part of the reason people don't like it. But it can only get better, and energy will also become more renewable. So I think there's two factors there. It's going to be more efficient. Energy will be more abundant in that scenario. So I can't imagine it'll get worse than this. I think it'll only go up.
Do you think why exactly do you think that it's just going to go up from here?
Well, technology gets more efficient. If I look at semiconductors, the size of semiconductors and the number of processes they could do back before we were born, and now it's a 25-year span. The difference is monumental. You look at energy consumption of our laptops, right? We bought this laptop a few years ago. The new Mac with the M1 chip uses significantly less energy. And I just think technology overall, it optimizes for efficiency. And this is clearly a point of contention. Like, people don't like that it uses this much power. There's actually entirely new cryptocurrencies that have been created because of the issue on power consumption.
But those come with the cons that kind of go against cryptocurrency as well. That's kind of like where the issue is, though, is that like the philosophies behind each one of these coins are constantly being, it's like you pick one or the other type of thing. Ethereum, it's super bad for the environment, but it's a true it's like a true validated blockchain versus something like, I'm trying to think. What's that one?
There's one
Solana.
Solana
was like one that claims to be very environmentally friendly, but it only validates like 49% of the blockchain, which some people say is huge security flaws.
Now, do you feel that companies truly, though, care from the perspective of, let's say for this example of Wikipedia, let's say like 30% of their donations were coming from crypto. Do you still think they would be like, we just care about the environment so much, we're getting rid of it?
Absolutely not.
And I think that's if we talk about environmental causes and capitalism and companies in general, what do companies do in capitalistic countries? Most of the time, they're going to do what makes the most profit, even if it affects the globe, and we're seeing the effects of that. I don't buy with crypto. I think, again, like you said earlier, for Wikipedia, it's a bit of a PR move. It's like, okay, hey guys, 0.1% of our donation are crypto. Let's just stop it for now. But if crypto becomes the main currency of all of humanity, you think these companies are going to be like, no, we don't want it because of the environmental impacts? I just don't believe that.
It probably cost them $130,000 to hire engineering to be able to put that banner across all of their websites that says this, right? So this is almost like a free PR move. They just remove the link and then there you go.
It's such a small impact that the green PR piece is worth 1%. But to Caden's point, and I guess to your original question, will this be something that we continue to see in the corporate space? As more people have buying power, buying power is crypto buying power, the more the brands will have to fold to it. And addressing your response to my point about efficiency, I think the average of the aggregate as a total whole is going to get more efficient with time. You're right. Some of them are more efficient than others, and they have different ethos and philosophies. But I think as a whole, they're going to get more efficient over time, and energy will become more renewable over time. So I think everything's in favor of crypto, which is probably why, it's done when it's done.
Yeah. I'm truly curious. I'm not too familiar with the new Ethereum, what they're trying to say.
Yeah. Apparently it's supposed to be much better with gas fees and stuff. Here's an interesting thing though. So while we're talking about crypto and Wikipedia, I was curious about just donations and something I never looked at before. Cause you know how they always ask you for donations?
Wikipedia?
Yeah. They always ask for donations. Well, get this. Wikipedia has a seriously fat bag. Yeah. So
Fat what?
A fat bag.
I thought you said, it sounded like you said fat back.
Okay, hold on. Wikipedia has a seriously fat bag. Yeah. So guess how much money they netted in profits just from like the profit versus how much they raised versus how much they expensed just last year.
200 million.
That's a lot of money.
I was going to say 25 million.
50 million.
50?
Yeah,
oh, that's not bad.
50 million, dude, net. So here's the thing. They raise money, like donations, and they, like the previous, so 2019, 2020, they only net 14 million. Before that, 30, then 21, then 21. Once upon a time in 2003, they only made 50 grand. So they've been consistently going from 50 to a few years later, 3 million, a few years later, 10 million, a few years later, 25 million, now 50. Their total assets, bro, like the fucking vault has $230 million in it.
Who's donate? Have you guys ever donated to Wikipedia before?
I have.
I've never donated to Wikipedia.
I've never even considered for half a second to donate to Wikipedia.
Why?
Because they have $230 million
exactly
in the
why.
bank, bro. I don't have $230 million in the bank.
Yeah, but
I'll donate to Wikipedia when they have less money in the bank than me.
they're a nonprofit. I truly stand for what Wikipedia stands for.
I'm
I
kidding.
know you guys too. I know.
do.
I know you guys too. But I'm just saying, Wikipedia is the go. I wish I had more money. They are the go.
This is random, but have you guys ever played the Wikipedia game?
So good.
Like where it's like, okay, you got to get to like, you'll get to a random Wikipedia page where it's like
From Drake to Pause.
Yeah, like Air Jordans to cheese. How fast can you get to it by just clicking on different topics?
I'm really fast at it. The time I've only played it once.
That'd be a fun game to do at the end of the podcast sometime.
Yeah, it might take a
honestly,
while.
It's honestly fun. I love the Wikipedia game. I think Wikipedia is incredible.
It's amazing. I just didn't realize they had that kind of money. Like the revenue, $162 million in donations, but the expenses are really high too. So the nice thing about Wikipedia is since 2003, they've consistently raised significantly more money than they were spending.
Do you have an expense sheet up right now?
Yeah, let me show you guys.
How much does their server cost? Because I think
I don't have
every time they have their
sheet.
donations. Okay, because every time they say on their donate page, they bring up that they're like the 4th most popular website in the world. I wonder how much that costs.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So here I'm sending it to you guys on Slack right now. This is how much money they've been raising. So like back in the day. So here's a cool thing, Lewis. So in 2003, arguably Wikipedia was still like, I don't know if I was using it really till like 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
But in 2003, the operating costs was $23,000, and they raised 80 grand.
Wow.
Even when they started. So ever since they started, they've been consistently generating a lot more profit than they're even expensing. So good for Wikipedia.
Yeah, free information. You gotta love it.
It's a good cause, which is why they get money.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's good too because with all that money they can invest.
What do they invest in?
Just bettering their architecture, bettering their because they manage the Wikimedia. Like think about how when you go on Wikipedia, there's like a million websites that go on it that are like it.
What's also interesting about Wikipedia is you don't really hear any bad PR stuff about them. Meaning like there could
so
be an
quiet.
opportunity where they put some facts that maybe might be debatable on like a page, but they never get shit about it.
Well, it's because it's like open sourced, right? Like it's like all contributors.
Yeah.
And
they
then it's
have
like
a
peer
very-
review.
They have like a strict code of conduct, right? You can't like mention that like you have to strictly like say things that are facts and then you state it otherwise, right? That's why you say like this was highly controversial or something.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
No opinions on Wikipedia, man. It's the greatest source of truth we have to humanity.
That's why I'm saying.
And it totally is worth a donation. So
It's worth a donation.
Dang,
It's
I feel
what-
bad now. I need to donate to Wikipedia.
yeah.
You got to invest. And speaking, do you know who's also investing, Lee and Caden?
Who's investing right now?
Lego is about to go nuts.
And bolts.
Oh, dude, that was sad.
Dang, that was
So Lego is hiring 3 times more software engineers
Then what?
than what they have right now.
Oh, okay. So they're tripling.
They're tripling their
Lego
employees.
is tripling the number of software engineers they have.
Lego is tripling. I don't know. That's exactly. Yeah. Lego is going nuts. I can't even believe this. CTO of Lego says our digital transformation is one of the most single largest investments the Lego Group. The Lego Group. That's pretty awesome. Imagine like flexing that on your LinkedIn. The Lego Group.
Yeah, CEO of the Lego Group. Why is that badass but also juvenile? At the
It's
same
like there's only 2 ways you can do. Like if I go up and say like if in my like grade 9 class, I walk into a room and say I'm part of the Lego group, I'd get beat up. But if I'm an older person, I get praised.
Can you imagine walking into a nice high-end restaurant bar and there's a guy, buff, nice beard, CEO style, sitting at the table, and you ask him what he does. He said, CEO. It's like, really? He's like, yeah, you making good money? Yeah, $50 million a year. And you're like, what company? Barbie. Like the dog.
Not expect that.
There's definitely a meme about that where it's like you have the Jeff Bezos, he's all skinny. He's like, oh wow, you made like $50 million last month because you do some sort of like warehouse shipping, whatever. Then you got like some Giga Chad who's like the CEO of like the Barbie and Lego group, you know, just eating his steaks raw.
A Giga Chad.
A Giga Chad, yeah, that's the meme. It's like with a jawline that's just like, yeah, it's so funny. Our digital transformation is one of the single largest investments the Lego Group will make in a generation. We've been blending physical and digital experiences for many years and are excited by our progress. But we have big ambitions, so we are accelerating our investment and expanding our digital team. So Lego has already been massive when it comes to games, movies, and other IPs in the digital era. Like your son is always playing the Lego games. I played Lego games when I was a kid. Lego movies, like they're huge. Lego's everywhere. So what's next? And I was just thinking, this is kind of like Lego could have easily entered this in when Roblox right now, one of the biggest games on earth, is basically like a Lego game in a way.
It totally should have been.
Can you not see a Lego / Minecraft collab? Or am I just crazy?
I don't even think
they already did a collab. Like,
of course they did.
Yeah, there's like Minecraft Lego.
Well, Minecraft I think was inspired by Lego.
No, but like a virtual like experience where it's like the same Minecraft world but like Lego-fied.
I think they tried to do that with Lego Worlds. Do you think?
Yeah, Lego Worlds.
Is that a game?
It is a game.
Yeah, Emerson has that, right?
Emerson has it. Yeah.
So Lego Worlds, they try to do something similar, but again, Minecraft was just so popular at the time, and then with Roblox, I just like it's that literally is Lego. I can't believe they missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah. Like Lego's one of those companies that like does things so on point, like from their movies to the games. They found a way to like entrench, and you know what? It makes sense because a company like Lego doesn't really have that many competitive advantages at a product level. There's actually tons of other companies that have created like similar products that you don't even know the names of, right? Like it's almost a meme. Like those are the Mega Bloks, you know.
The Mega Bloks, yeah.
They're not Lego, right? And there's some that are actually like just the exact same, really, as Lego that are coming from China or whatever else. So Lego did what any smart brand does, and they developed a really sticky brand. So like, and you know, to go to the lengths of making games and movies, you know what I mean?
So good, man.
For your toy,
Lego.
not the other way around. Like usually it's like, oh, we make a toy about Star Wars or we make a toy about Avengers. A lot of the time it's Lego that's making those toys too.
Yeah. Dude, Lego is so boss, man. Like just like think about that Lego red brick for a second. Just such a good branding piece.
I just think it's funny how like Lego really can collab with any type of open world environment, like whether it's a story, movie, video game. Like I just had the thought now, I'm like, what if Lego collab with like GTA, like for GTA 6, Lego and GTA like collabing?
Or anybody.
Or even better, what's even cooler with Lego is that if they don't do it officially, their community will. How many times I remember when GTA 4 came out, all over YouTube, it was GTA Lego-fied or something, and it was like those stop motion animations of GTA in Lego. So their community is making it for them.
Yeah, Lego's become like equivalent to claymation, like clay, equivalent to like pen and paper. Like it's like like kids doing engineering in school with robots. They look at like Lego, like they look at circuit boards and glue and you know popsicle sticks. Like it is a tool to build. Like Lego has become synonymous with blocks.
Yeah, it's seriously incredible. I have a question for both of you guys. What other companies can use a massive digital transformation? Do you know what I thought of? So what I thought of was a lot of these like brick and mortar places like EB Games. They could have been huge. I mean, it's kind of a bit late, but Sears is another one. How can, like, looking at that Sears catalog, how could they have turned that into a cool e-commerce experience?
What about like magazines? Like that's something that just died. Like,
yeah, apart from like some of the big ones, right?
But there could have been a way to because I always see a transition to like e-readers and that kind of thing. But there could have been a way to, and it could be revised now with things like VR, where you go into situations that are these information articles, so to say.
Yeah, I know places like things like a lot of these magazines have transitioned fairly well to the modern day. Like Vogue is no longer the magazine. You go on the Vogue YouTube channel, and all these like celebrities are now doing these like kind of video things. Like, is it 71 Questions with Kendall Jenner or something?
72 questions.
Oh, okay. I missed a question.
Could be wrong.
But that's a cool way that they've digitally transformed. Lego, I think they have really high ambition, so that's why they're hiring so many software engineers.
Honestly, when I think about companies that need a digital transformation, I think that would have been a cool question 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about everybody's done it.
It's so much.
Everybody's embraced technology. Like, if you're not embracing technology right now, your company's dying or dead.
I think they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they're alive.
Like, try and think of a company that's not leveraging technology heavily. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hard question.
Gotta give props to Walmart for that. I feel like Walmart was really on the ball with that.
Walmart, McDonald's. There's brands that have kind of been at the forefront, but like everyone's got apps, everyone's got loyalty programs, everyone's got, better technology in their businesses if they're direct to consumer. I mean, I think mostly the B2B market. I think business to business is kind of lagging. Business to consumer, totally different space, totally embraced technology.
Yeah. It's nuts. Do you know what's nuts?
That's nuts.
Well, I'll tell you in the fast forward segment. So, Lee and Caden, listen to this argument right here. Astronauts are becoming obsolete. So that sounds pretty outlandish. Astronauts are like future people. But astrophysicist Donald Goldsmith and Martin Rees argued in their new book, The End of Astronauts, that space exploration might be a better job to outsource to robots. Now, I think we've always thought about that, but a big reason is that it's way cheaper to send robots to outer space. Listen to this statistic. The rover mission to Mars, with the Curiosity rover, costed $2.75 billion, while establishing a moon base would cost $100 billion plus. So literally more than 50 times what it would cost to just send a rover all the way out to Mars. And these robots also have better ways of collecting samples and can do everything. Think about being in that suit, right? It's horrible. And this is because robots, they don't die without food or oxygen. How long, Lee, do you know how long it takes to get from Mars just there?
From Earth to Mars?
Yeah. I think like 10 years or something.
Let me see. Earth to Mars travel time. It is, it's 241 million kilometers. So it would take about 7 months.
Oh, 7 months, that's it?
And about 300 million miles.
So either way, 7 months.
Wait, hold on. That's an aircraft departs Earth at the speed of about 24,000 miles per hour. So you have to be going pretty fast to get there in 7 months. I guess it's hard to say.
But either way, that's a lot of food you have to get. And that's a lot of supplies that you do just to keep these people alive. Maybe they should get the teledoc or MetaTalk. That's what they need to do it. But corporate companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are spending lots of money to go to space with tourism, mining, and other for-profit activities that they are hopefully looking to be able to salvage their investments with. This making bots, so this is kind of an argument against why bots will be very unlikely. So how can we use robots to its fullest potential in space?
Well, my first reaction is, can you buy stock in Elon Musk? Because Mans is doing space travel, going to colonize Mars, and he's also recently said Tesla's biggest project is the Tesla bot. So like, dude, I'm picturing Mars and it's just covered in Tesla bots, building shit.
This dude literally built his own planet.
Yeah, dude. So I guess to follow up on your original question, totally makes sense. It is so expensive to keep humans alive. And then also, no one wants to spend, like if we did a moon based, the biggest expense would be bringing people back because they're sick of fucking the moon.
Yeah.
I think we can separate the two, where space tourism will be still a continuing growing industry because of just the curiosity of humans. We want to see space. We want to go. Now, when it comes to space tactical projects from governments or private companies, it doesn't make sense. It's like, send the robots. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. But I think it's just separating the two, right?
In our last episode, we did talk about a doctor being able to shake the hand in a virtual.
Oh yeah.
Remember, virtually with an astronaut on the International Space Station. And the biggest thing that we took from that wasn't really the VR AR thing, because we thought that was kind of corny.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was the zero latency. So what that gets me to thinking is, with things like SpaceX's Starlink and future, potentially strong low latency signals to the moon, you don't even really need robots, because the thing is, robots, the tech is going to be a while before they're really utility, right?
Yeah.
Humans are just humans can do so many things, and when they have headphones in and they can talk to Houston, like, they're really going to be able to do a lot. But now imagine an autonomous, or not an autonomous, a remote control robot that a human on Earth is able to work on. You know what I mean? So you can come in, do your shift, you're controlling the robot, you got the VR headset on, and you're on the moon controlling this robot, getting work done. And then when you clock out, somebody else can continue the work.
Sidetrack. I think I just realized something. Houston's not a person. It's Houston, Texas, right?
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, it's like
Houston,
referring to home base.
Referring to home base, yeah.
I thought he was talking to someone named Houston this entire time.
Are you serious?
Houston just refers to like, hey, like everyone on Earth. Like,
yeah, I know, but everyone on Earth, that's such a Texas thing. Everyone on Earth, aka just in Texas, you know?
Even think about how with astronauts, just, as humans, we obviously need just to sleep. Like with robots, they can just keep going. Think about the 10x productivity just from that alone. Right?
Yeah,
and the humans get sick, and they have to come back. That's the biggest issue, guys. Like, it's literally they have to come back. Like right now, the International Space Station. Like right now, we put people on the space station, and then they, after a few months to a year or whatever, they come back, and then we have to spend more money getting more humans back up.
Yeah.
If we didn't have to keep sending people up,
so
we could just blow the robots up like when they're out there with the ship.
Yeah, but that's what's hilarious is that they're gonna realize this, and that's when the revolt starts.
That's when the robot's like, "You're not blowing me up.
You're not blowing me up."
Could you imagine though, like they're all on Mars building it, and they're just like, "Hey, like, should we just like not let the fucking humans get back? This is pretty nice.
We built this whole thing. Why should we let them come and just take over?"
Dude, it's gonna be slavery. Like,
you guys laugh, but I'm just saying AI will come to a point where they realize that serving humans is not the best, most optimal way of doing things.
500 years in the future, we'll be looking at fucking the Martin Luther King of robots, who's gonna be up there being like, "We built this fucking this planet, and they are judging us based on the color of our innards." I don't know.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where, like, let's say you're on Twitter or something and you post something wrong and so you get canceled, right? And then like President whoever at the time is like, 5 years in Mars of like colonization building for being canceled. Like, we're sending you off Earth. That's like the punishment. Yeah.
That's the future.
Like, you're like being like canceled now literally means we kick you off of Earth.
But you know what though?
We do not claim you anymore.
That's a risky business, because if you send all the criminals to Mars, you're not setting.
No, I'm not talking about criminals. I'm talking about thought criminals. I'm talking about like the Twitter typers. Yeah.
So it's just like
getting canceled is worse than being like going to jail.
Going to Guantanamo.
You murder somebody, yeah.
So pretty much Mars is just like a fucking comedy club. Yeah. and Amber Heard.
Yeah. Oh geez.
Yeah. No, that's. I do think that robots, like, we need to get to a point where robots can do some of the more utility aspects. Humans will be there, but yeah, that's.
It makes sense. It's gonna allow us to build the moon base cheaper. It's gonna allow us to build colony on Mars. And humans are expensive and unproductive and a liability, and they suck.
And that's where AI is then going to take over us.
Even honestly, I'm not even going to say AI, even remote control robots. Just because we have so many humans on Earth, and if we can manage, remotely,
no, I agree. Like, even with the rover, like the Curiosity rover, like we just controlled that thing with a remote control.
How does it work with the latency to Mars?
I have no idea.
Like, do they like do a movement and then like wait like
10 hours
for them to do the movement? That's interesting.
That is actually interesting.
Never even thought about that.
I never even thought about that too. Could you imagine? It's like gamers doing this. They're like, this freaking lag.
This refresh rate is terrible.
Just rage quit.
What's my ping? Yeah, what's my freaking ping on this friggin'? So now that I took you guys forward to space, let's go back a little bit because we're staying in space for the rewind.
What do you got for us, Lewis?
It's 1961 this week. Alan Shepard becomes the first American in space.
I never even knew his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, May 5th, 1961.
Yeah. So Navy Commander Alan Barley Shepard Jr. is launched into space aboard the Freedom 7 space capsule. The flight only lasted 15 minutes and reached a height of 116 miles into the atmosphere. So it was a very short flight.
I don't really like how you put only 15 minutes. Like, is that considered a short time for you guys? Or
Wait, what do you mean? You lasted. You say
3 minutes is the average.
It's like, is that not the normal time?
45 minutes, boys. 45 minutes.
45 minutes. I would get tired. Like, I'd be up in space for way too long at that point. I'd get hungry. So only lasted 15 minutes and reached a height of 116 miles into the atmosphere. NASA was established 3 years before this. So NASA only existed for 3 years before this happened and this was in response to the Soviets' achievement of launching the first satellite, the Sputnik 1, into space. This, of course, powered the space race, a race between two leading superpowers at the time. The Soviets won when Yuri Gagarin launched into space and safely returned to Earth. 1 month later, this event happened. So this was their response to that. So we lost the space race, but we came back at least and did it a month later. Now, here's another question for you guys. Are we in another space race? Not with Putin, but the private versus public sector.
They're the same.
They're the same?
Yeah. Yeah, the public's not going to... Once you allowed the private sector to play, there is no race. It is complete.
Well, there is technically a race within the private. So I said private versus public.
Yeah. So you're saying like governments versus corporations?
Yeah. But what I'm saying here too is that even within it, we got SpaceX versus Blue Origin versus the Virgin Galactic.
Oh, there's competition there. That's a real space
there.
race. But public versus private, no. What's going to happen now is the government's going to be a proxy, just like it is to, any other industry, where they're going to regulate, fund, and interfere with capitalism at its doing what it's supposed to be doing, and they're going to pay people like Elon and Jeff Bezos to do what they're doing, and it'll be much more efficient. This is why we haven't gone back to the moon in so long.
It's been a long time.
It's just because they don't know how to spend the money. We've been funding NASA more and more and more and more. Yeah. Just no progress.
But like, also, what else is there to do on the moon?
Research. That's why we're at the
research.
We're on the space station for the same reason.
Yeah.
Also, the moon base has been a practical step forward to Mars. It's always been that way. So not being able to do that, not returning to Mars, is pretty sad.
I'm not specific. I'm not too familiar with the way SpaceX. But SpaceX, apart from their reusable rockets, where have they innovated? Not a dig. I'm just saying. I'm just a genuine curious.
Outside of their reusable rockets,
which
drove the cost of space travel down by 20x.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
so I just mean like when it comes to like doing research on the moon, say, right?
So
how much has been done there?
So and this is again, I'm not like a huge nerd when it comes to SpaceX, but innovation in reusable rockets, innovation in landing technology, innovation in materials used for boosters, innovation for astronaut safety, astronaut suit tech, innovation in
it's incredible. It's definitely like, and that's good. And I think that's where the mix between SpaceX and NASA is really good, because again, you're right. Like NASA doesn't have any incentive to like find ways to save this type of money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, SpaceX doesn't necessarily have an incentive to discover like new particles on the moon, because it doesn't necessarily bring them in a lot of money unless they were given a contract by NASA to do it specifically.
Exactly. So they're saying they're taking the taxpayer money that they've been spending, but now they're giving it to a capital market to say, who's the lowest bidder, which I'm a huge proponent for this. Who is the lowest bidder or the highest value bidder that can provide us the service, and then we'll let you guys do it.
Yeah.
And then accomplish our goal with our money, rather than them trying to fucking juggle with no repercussions. Like if they fail, who cares?
Yeah.
Who's caring about the fact that the
just
US...
the taxpayer fails at the end of the day.
And do they even know? Like they don't even really pay attention. They're too busy trying to get through the fucking rat race, you know?
Yeah.
It's a great economic example of, like, again, you were really talking about, but public versus private enterprises and how fast we can actually get things done. Like the concept of $1 given to the government and how long it could take for that to get properly used versus giving it to a private company and how quickly we can build. Again, not a political statement, just more of an economic statement of things, but it's just interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, there's questions about what is right and is one more dangerous than the other, but in regards to like what is more effective at
efficient,
there's no question that the data is very loud.
Of course, but that is when it comes to. That's why you definitely need a mix of both, because
I agree.
When you just give it to say just private, the profits for the most part will take priority, and that's where like issues with safety can come, right? Because that's when they're getting cut, and then that's when and I think this is a good mix in between. NASA, I love NASA. I think everyone loves NASA.
Yeah.
You can't not like them, right? I think it's good that they're able to, like, we can invest this money to find out this cool, like, it's good for humanity to find out what rocks are on Mars or on the moon.
It seems though that private space travel has really re-inspired America, North Americans, the world about going to space. Because again, like you mentioned, it's been so long since NASA has kind of gone on these missions, and when we have these figures like Bezos and Musk really showing the plan for the future of like, hey, this is a possibility. We can do this as a human species. We can go this far. And it's really, like I said, re-inspired the world about space travel.
Because it's giving us an incentive now. Before it was like, oh, the Soviets, like if they beat us, we're like screwed. They're going to come and kill us. Now it's like, now that there's competition again, right? Like the Soviets aren't, like, I don't think Russia's doing nothing.
And right? The thing is, that's the thing. Competition is everything. And when we were competing with Russia to the moon, like the moon race was crazy.
Oh,
It's like there was participants trying to get closer and closer, and we ultimately won, I think. Not to go down there. I'm just kidding. Not a conspiracy rabbit hole. But North America won. I guess we didn't win. We're Canadian. America won. I just say we because we beat Russia as like the allies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the whole entire space race, it really slowed once the competition was gone, and that's when they started to really lag behind. I think you wouldn't want a referee playing basketball. You don't want the government playing space. The government's bad at everything, just like a referee is not good at basketball or reffing, right? As we know, refs suck at just everything.
Unless it's your team that wins.
Yeah, unless you get the calls. So, the government's not good at anything, but they have to do that job because a company can't do that job, and that job should be not to allocate capital and not to be a capital allocator, period, but to regulate and to help guide capitalism. So, hey guys, we have this problem. The taxpayers have this money. We're going to budget it, but we want the private sector to compete and deliver the best value for people and for humanity. And you said something kind of interesting too, Caden, about the inspiration side of things, because you're right. For the first time, we do feel inspired. And I feel like, this may be a bit political, but the last like 10 years have been not really inspiring, because if I was talking to a person, I wouldn't walk in his house and be like, this is fucking gross. You're a pig. This is not environmentally friendly. You're fat. Like, look at all the problems, man. This is so rough. This life sucks, man. There are people starve. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be able to inspire that person to get up and get his life together if I just focused on all the problems. I'd have to inspire them. Like, hey, man, like, you can do it. Like, there's a better life. Like, there's all these things you could accomplish. But society has taken that approach where we focus so much on the problems and like why our country is not good or why things aren't going well, when really we're living like the best quality of life ever. And there's so many inspiring things on the frontier that we should celebrate.
Well, I was going to say, when America went to the moon for the first time in 1969, now none of us were alive during that time, but from what I've heard and read about, it was such a unifying experience for the country. It brought everyone together for this common goal and mission. And obviously now, where obviously there can be a lot of political divide and so forth, something like space could potentially be a really great unifier.
I agree.
I think, but the thing is that you're saying 10 years ago, I think like people have always focused on the problems. We have a tunnel vision view because we're living in our current day. We look back at the past when maybe America was more, but like scandals happen. Watergate happened back in the day. People were divided, right? There's huge corruption.
World War II was a thing.
World War II was a thing. And also at the time too, it was easy because when you had Stalin in power, it was like you had, arguably worse than Hitler that was living on this earth. And right now we almost have a unifying experience right now with the Ukraine situation. It's kind of the same things.
I'm not saying that. I know. I just said this is the best time to be alive. What I'm saying is that as a society, we don't focus so much on these ideas. Now, I think recently we have because of SpaceX and everything else. Before that, we didn't really have a lot to look forward to. Everything's like technology is going to be doomsday and this is all going to be bad, blah, blah, blah. As far as the division, I think the data shows that, at least in America, division's at the highest it's been based on like, do Democratic families want their kids marrying Republicans and vice versa? Like the numbers, the amount in which they don't has increased steadily over time. So just like being like, to me, divided, like such a good representation is like, we don't want our families to blend, and families are the lowest, like that's the atom, right? Because then families make up communities, make up cities, make up states, make up a country, and they're so divided. So I'm not saying that like, everything sucks right now or the last 10 years. Like, of course, all those things throughout history have been that way. I just think here's the best way to put it. When you become more prosperous, you focus more on what's not good. When you are living in poverty in, Africa, you focus on hope and you focus on the positive. So I think as society, especially in the West, have got more money, they're just more prosperous in general, they start to focus more, they're fully developed, they focus on the negative. And that's just like the reality of what we've been living through as things have become more.
But I think that's prosperous. A sign of intelligence, though. That's a sign that as a society, we're at least somewhat educated to a point where we can realize problems that are happening here. Because you're right, the West is amazing, and I live an amazing life. I know you guys too, despite some of the problems that we have. But to not address those problems is like to say like, oh, things are just great, is almost ignoring the problems in itself. And I think that's why it's important for us to focus on those problems, even though we live amazing lives. Yeah, I'm not starving, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that some of the issues that we face and that some people do face are not important too. I get that part. Yeah, we're not in Ukraine. We're not dying.
But I think we've always been aware of the issues. That's why they got solved in the first place. I think it's just about fixing the gratitude, the lack of gratitude.
Yeah. It's how we go about fixing it and how we communicate with others to fix those problems, right? It's like, I think we're all aware that there's issues, but it's the blaming of others and so forth. Again, going back to the space thing, I think whenever humans and people focus on something bigger than themselves, it's one of the best unifying experiences, right? It's like, hey, because a lot of the political stuff is very me focused. It's like, this is affecting my life and it's you. Whereas like something like space, it's like, hey, as a human society, we can keep going. We can push the boundaries, keep moving forward. It's not as much about you. It's about the collective whole.
At least right now, it's not very divided. It's very unified.
It could become extremely divided though, real quick.
In the future, I could definitely see like that being a point of contention for sure. But right now, I always said like if we got invaded by aliens, then everyone would
unify.
Yeah, because like they just need everyone needs opposition. Everyone's so tribal. They need an enemy to argue with, which is why like politically, I like to think like I just like both sides equally. Like I just like kind of like because I don't really feel like any sense of divide. Like I see where the right and wrong is on both sides, but the biggest issue is they hate each other because they have that opposition. And if we had like aliens coming in and like fucking with us, like no one cares where you're voting anymore. Yeah.
Well,
you have a new enemy, right?
Yeah. Well, even then it's like, even this current space age is not even a 100% unifying moment, right?
No, not perfectly.
It's not. And in my opinion, there are understandable critiques as to why, because back in the day, NASA was the embodiment, despite maybe some corruption that was happening, was like funded by the American people. So you had something like that. And now we have corporations who are taking over, making things more efficient. And in terms of innovation is pushing things really farther. But it's now a lot of people are feeling betrayed because this is no longer something that belongs to the American people. It's being belonged to the extremely rich, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, etc. And I think that's where a lot of the concerns come from. My opinion on it is that I think it's really I think it's great that we can get the innovation that comes with the capitalist aspect of it, but it does make you question a couple things when NASA is giving out these gigantic contracts just for them to be able to then reap all the rewards as well as the shareholder, like kind of like how the capitalistic structure works.
Yeah.
It does.
Americans own Tesla, and Americans will own SpaceX in the public market. And
but of course, that's where the wealth divide is. Yeah. It's like saying like, yeah, you can own Tesla too if you just drop $1,000 worth of stock on it, right? That's a huge ask for a lot of people.
Also, the taxpayers, the ones that are paying taxes that are going to NASA, were they're wealthier too, because like the poor people that are poor, they were getting tax returns and their tax dollars weren't going to it. To me, it's like, would you rather I'm paying the tax dollars towards NASA, but they don't go to space? Or would you rather the money go to like private companies and they actually go to space?
No, it's true as well, right? Yeah. But you have to understand this is where I am divided on the issue a little bit.
All I want to say is when you guys do your first Fast Forward podcast in space, I would like to be the first guest again. That's all I want. That's all I ask right now.
We're gonna go to space. Record. Yeah, there will be a Fast Forward episode. Yeah, on space. Maybe it's virtually.
Yeah,
in the metaverse.
In the metaverse. Yeah.
No, we're physically going, boys.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That was a great conversation, guys. That was a good. I felt like the rewind was really good this time.
Yeah, the rewind doesn't always like.
It doesn't always slap. It really slapped this time.
Yeah, because there was room to talk about the future of space, and that's a great conversation.
Yeah, it was. I felt like it was very well educated. And speaking of educated, let's get into the snips because number one is going to be about Tim Cook. Actually, a couple of them are about Tim Cook. But let's just get your quick reactions here, guys. Snip, snip, snip. All right. Apple's Tim Cook is now advisor to the business school at China's Harvard. So Tim Cook is now an advisor at, it's called Tsinghua University Business School. So apparently Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella from Microsoft, kind of sad. Like, I could say Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg, exactly. Satya Nadella. Most people are like, who's that? It's like, dude, second biggest company in the world, basically. And the CEO is now, Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, is now the chairman. So, I mean, of course, we're kind of getting back a little bit into the politics. How does that make you feel? American tech companies now being chairs at Chinese areas, especially in the political divide we have.
Sounds to me like geopolitical, from a corporate perspective, strategy. Like, why were American CEOs chairmen of business school boards in America at big schools in the States like Harvard or Stanford or whatever else? It's probably because they was, whether it was in recruitment or through like business strategy in those cities or countries, there was strategy there. China's becoming a huge part of the globalization, the economy. Tim Cook does a lot of business in China. Like, that's where all the shit's made.
Yeah.
Right. In Chinese factories. And if it's China's equivalent of Harvard, it's cranking out great talent. And, there's 1 billion people in China. So China's Harvard probably cranks out more talent than Harvard.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But it just makes you think here, because the way China is right now, it's almost like, well, what about, it's always America first. Do you have to think, is it America first?
Well, corporations don't have America first.
Of course.
Corporations have
money first.
Yeah.
And if China's going to give them what they can translate into money as an opportunity, as in talent, as in IP, they're going to go where that is.
Well, I know that's the way it is, right? But that's not the question. The question is, how do you feel about that personally, both of you guys?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I think borders I understand them culturally, but I think corporations can't be patriotic. They can't be American. They can't be that way. If they were that way, they would fail.
But do you say? But the thing is that do you say that is like? Are you saying that from the point of view that like if they were less patriotic, would it make because the way they are is they're very extremist in the way they think. Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, the party for sure. But like I think if like a company in China, TikTok's ByteDance is in China, right?
Yeah.
So ByteDance, their CEO wants to come be a board chair here because they see opportunity here. That's great, right? That's great because they see opportunity here. And now our country can participate in the global economy. So I think fundamentally, even though I understand what you're saying, I would like for corporations which have a lot of the power to change countries to be able to do that anywhere. And if that means China, then I guess it means China.
So are you saying that like Apple is making a play over on China to make America a better place? Or
I think Apple as a corporation, as a vehicle, can make China a better place. I don't know if it'll make America.
How do you think they can do that?
Because I think that's what they've done everywhere. Actually,
well, no, I mean like how do you think they physically can do that?
I think they physically already did. China's middle class is the fastest growing middle class in recent history, and it's due to manufacturing for Western brands. It's due to companies like Apple setting up shop there and building massive facilities, or facilities, working with companies like Apple to build the products, like Foxconn, I forget, and there's a company, I forget the name of it. So yeah, the West built China. The West built China, man.
Yeah. I know that.
And it wasn't our governments that went over and built China to what it is today,
and
pulled so many people out of poverty. It was our corporations going over there and pulling people out of poverty. So I would like Apple to go to Sri Lanka, where my fucking, my grandparents are now, and their government has fucking destroyed their country, and people are starving, and you can't get stuff. It's like the currency is inflating, and I would like companies to come in there and stimulate the economy. And I think that's like a worldly right.
Is this I was just gonna say, is this like an argument against it? And this is just me thinking of the best example. It's not me trying to straw man your argument here. But like when Nike goes over to like Indonesia and starts up a sweatshop, how some people would argue that that's a good thing versus a bad thing.
Yep.
Which one are you saying? Are you saying that? Are you saying that like it's a good thing, similar to how like Nike put sweatshops in Indonesia?
Yeah. So that's an example of what I'm talking about, which is like capital investment in a lower class country because the labor. I think it's bad if you just leave. I think it's bad if a corporation leaves and then the economy there struggles. So I think that's again where the government has to be super effective. The government has to create lease agreements.
Which government though?
The host government.
Yeah, and this is where the issue is though, because these governments usually don't care.
They're corrupt.
Exactly. They're corrupt.
That's why they need to do their job. They need to regulate, and they need to create good. And at the end of the day, that's the people vote for the people.
Whose job is that though? Because like think about it, because Apple again is not going to care about if people are working 24 hours, but who's going to stop like Indonesia, for example? Is it like the United Nations?
No, their own country, their own government.
But like
to permit so let's say, for example, in Sri Lanka, you want to go do a factory there. The government should say, yeah,꯫ We'll authorize this business. You can take advantage of the labor discrepancy and cost and the cost of goods. Maybe the business is harvesting tea, right? Tea is very plentiful in Sri Lanka. Yeah. And they'll say, yeah, but you got to do it for 50 years. If you don't, then, XYZ. And, once they get that money, they need to be able to diversify. Because where those sweatshops have really destroyed countries is when they close down, or
they just like have such poor conditions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, that's a totally different conversation. I'm talking more about the economy.
Well, sure, but that's
a human
also
rights thing.
That's also part of it too, right? And that's like when you have these people. I mean, this is kind of where the issue kind of comes from, I guess you could say, is that you have extremely rich companies like Apple or Nike. I'm just saying, right? That's not what you were arguing whatsoever. So I'm not saying that you said that. But they come over and they take advantage of these places that are not going to regulate it, and they're not going to. It almost does more harm than good. Economically, sure, it does well, but when your workers are working 24 hours a day and dying of sleep deprivation, it's like, what's going on, right? That's tough.
And you know what? That's what I saw that stuff and I was offended in the past, because that argument about the conditions and the human rights thing, that definitely was a big deal for me, because a lot of the where I'm from, that's a lot of that stuff was happening. There was some controversy with Beyonce, et cetera. What I think a lot of people don't realize, and mostly people that are coming from privilege, and not to attack either of you guys, but what people don't realize when they create those surface level arguments is they don't realize that when that company came in to take advantage of those low conditions that were already there. If you go to a restaurant or a market that exists in that economy at that time before the company arrives with their factory or whatever else, the conditions suck. They don't have regulation. They don't have EI. They don't have paid time off. They don't have safety because the country's prosperity is low. So of course, when you compare it to the quality of life over here, and now you've got this shared corporation has Nike workers here and Nike workers there, and there's a huge discrepancy. But they're not coming in and creating that. They're coming and participating in that. And here's the difference to me. It's like ultimately what I want to see at the end of the day is not semantics. I want to see more people out of poverty, period. Because I know what that suffering is like. I've seen it. It sucks. Ultimately, if you look at China and the amount of people that were in poverty, what's happened in Chinese factories? Back in the day, the quality was poor, the safety was poor, the rate of pay was poor. Remember, there used to be a joke like, oh, these little Chinese children are making our cell phones or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what's happening now? The cost of goods in China is extraordinarily higher. The cost of the goods, the cost of the labor, the cost of the organization, administration, all of it. And because of that, corporations are moving to other markets. But look at where China is today, built on the backs of manufacturing, right? So ultimately, you got people out of poverty. Yes, the beginning, the quality was poor, the quality of work, the standards, safety, pay, work, etc., has all increased, and it's still bad. It's still worse there than it is here. But
it'll always be,
but significantly better.
Yeah, but that's I guess the issue, because you're right. Like we do come from privilege, absolutely, especially myself. But it's more so of I think the reason I was so offended, it was more so an identity thing, because as me, someone who rocks Nike shoes, right? I want to feel like I can represent that brand well because I like wearing Nike shoes. But I'm wearing Nike shoes, by the way, right now. But when I'm hearing that, kids are getting beaten to make them faster, it makes me offended that
kids are being beaten. Yeah, that's bad. Like abuse should not be.
Yeah. Could you imagine me trying to get you to argue against child abuse?
Yeah. But you know what? Here's the reality, though.
But I do agree. I do think like obviously it's not going to be. No one's going to live the lifestyle that we live right off the gate. But what I guess my argument is that it doesn't have to be like we don't have to do the 0 to 20 and then that 20 to 100% it gets better. You know what I mean? Why not just start at that 20% where things are just okay, and then it gets better and better as you get more money and the people benefit a bit more, I'm
not sure because I don't know the market, but I assume it's because the cost of of getting there in the first place, transporting everything, like once you factor all those things in, it's a business. So I don't know if they could like hypothetically give all these kids like massive raises and they're just choosing not to because it's just,
of
again,
course,
but here's the thing, it's a competitive market. So what happens if Adidas sets shop in Indonesia and is doing everything properly, and then Nike's like, yo, but in Thailand, I can really exploit these children. And now in America, Nike can't price their shoes the same as Adidas.
Well, no,
right.
But so that's a fundamental flaw, right? It's kind of like that's not a finger you can point at anybody, no. Right? It's a system that's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Global economies are tricky.
Yeah.
That's why I think ultimately, if we can just get everyone to not be poor, then we can start playing ball.
Yeah.
But right now, it's just too much exploitation between the powerful and the rich and the not.
Tim Cook says iPhone buyers switched from Android last year.
Of course.
Yeah. Apple is just going to kill Android.
I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
What's the facts?
So just Tim Cook says that iPhone buyers, so a lot more iPhone buyers switched from Android last year or from last quarter. So they saw a huge boost in iPhone sales.
You know what? I think the iPhone, so here's the thing. There's a huge ongoing battle, iPhone and Android. And I think there's a clear victor. And I think they're starting to just beat the dead horse. And the Android people don't want to fight anymore. They have no fight left in them.
Android people are so funny to me because, like, I'll just say this right now. If you're a guy and you're like texting a girl and all of a sudden you text her and like green bubble pops up, she's not texting you back. Like, that's how serious the Android Apple battle is, right? And Android users will be like, but no, I got a 64 megapixels on the back camera, bro. Like, it's better, trust me. And then like there's a dude with all the girls with his iPhone. He's like, sure, bro. And then he walks off. That's the Apple Android debate right there.
100% facts. Like we can get into the details of why. Like Android's an operating system.
Another day.
Yeah.
Another day.
Yeah. It's called Snip, please.
As we just went on like a 30-minute tangent
on sweatshop and economic policy.
Epic Games is suing Google. So
same thing they sued fucking Apple about.
But they're doing it on behalf of Google's new acquisition.
Wait, what?
Epic Games bought Bandcamp, but Bandcamp says that they can't pay Google their fees that they have because they pride themselves on giving most of the money to the artist. So they would make almost no money on the App Store. So Epic Games is stepping up to be able to sue Google now. So I just thought it was funny that Epic Games is like
loves to sue people.
Yeah, they're like the police now. They're like, oh, yep, lawsuit. Like I don't even know if we should release this because I think Epic Games might sue the Fast Forward podcast.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
So that's just a little hilarious little thing right there. And any other things that you want to mention, Lee?
There's a couple stories there that Caden popped in there.
I'll just throw one in that I found. So SoundCloud acquires an AI company to predict new hits. So I guess this AI company listens to all of the, so the article said all of the amateur music on SoundCloud to predict potentially what could be the next like pop-in artist, pop-in rapper on the platform to push to SoundCloud listeners.
Can I just say, the poor bastard that had to train the model on good music on SoundCloud that was like listening to songs and being like, not a hit, not a hit, not a hit, not a hit,
maybe
not a hit, 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 hit. And like does that for like, I don't know how long to train this fucking thing. Dude, rest in peace to that guy.
Yeah, who programmed that algorithm? That's my question, because there's someone to determine what is like a hit, you know?
There's some poor people, like these people need to be honored for their sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know how like, I think Eminem just got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? This guy needs to, John Smith that works at SoundCloud needs to be honored for listening to Lil Pump, Gucci Gang for the last 10 hours straight, you know?
Here on the real, I think what they did was they took, and you can do this today, like this data has been out there. You can look at history's hit songs and look at the common denominators. So, you know, standard, you know, certain major chords, major key scales are the, you know, most common. Having certain types of 4/4 timing, for example, is very, very common in hit songs. Certain progressions are very common. There's a number of there's a few progressions that are in like 1 million hit songs.
But take into consideration too how SoundCloud has the technology to identify at what point do people repeat in the song specifically. So they also have that relationship with how people are reacting to the songs as well.
Yeah, so they can
which
detect
is
the hits.
huge for the data.
So I think you train it on historically what songs have made it and what characteristics they have musically. And then you also have to realize that, you know, hit music is the beauty of hit music is it changes. So you can't really predict what it's going to be because it's new sounds that people like. So then you're combining it with the data from the songs, like people replaying it, how long they're listening for, who they're sharing it with. And you can kind of identify a viral song early on.
Imagine if record labels, though, like when an artist comes to the label and is like, hey, here's my album. If the record label could like put that album through some sort of an AI software where it would predict the success of that album. It's like, hey, man, sorry, we can't release this. You only got like a 60% on the
I think that's what this is. I think that's what this shit does.
Yeah.
I think this shit literally is like I think there's a couple other tools like this. I mean, even Lewis, like, is there like because you're on YouTube, is there like a thumbnail like auditor tool out there? Like,
not yet. No, like an A/B tester, not yet.
Well, something that just like tells you if it's good or bad before you publish it.
I don't think so at the moment.
Interesting.
I could be wrong though.
I feel like
an AI
could tell you like that's not gonna work, fam. So here's actually for web, so in marketing we have something like this. So we use a tool that scans landing pages and then using heat maps shows you where the focus is going to go and how effective your landing page is going to be for conversions. So there are tools already that are like pre-preparing things before they go to market. I think a label, like before they spend millions of dollars marketing a song, like being able to like use this tool to like audit it to see if it's going to work is a killer idea.
Yeah.
A company, I think it's Nike, they have this hardware software rig at their office where somebody can go in and look at a shoe and the cameras are tracking their face and it can actually see the true sentiment of the response to the shoe. Mm-hmm. So they'll have like tons of people come in and like see a shoe and then use that data to decide if they're going to put it on you ever wonder like when you go to Sport Check, like why those shoes are there and who decided those shoes are great? Fucking data.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny going back to this AI software. It'd be cool. It'd be funny if we had access to that and you played it like old classical music, like you gave like Beethoven or something, and then it's like a robot voice where it's like, "Shit does not slap."
Yeah, it's whack. Beethoven's whack.
Beethoven is.
That's a clip there. All right.
Yeah. Wow. I think that was a great episode, guys. Thank you so much, Kane, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, boys. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think what we're going to do is when Storm gets back, I mean, we wanted to do like at least 10 episodes, like just me and Lewis, obviously Storm producing, just to like get it under our belts. But when Storm comes back, I still think we could have guests on the show, whether virtual, like, you know, interesting guests or even our own friends. So yeah, we'll definitely have you back, Caden. This was your audition. And,
I think you passed. You got the role.
We'll talk about it offline.
Cool.
Without you in the room. Just kidding. You did great, man. Thanks for joining us. And if you're listening still, thank you for joining us. And don't forget that you can follow us on social media. We post short form content on Reels, on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok. And also don't forget to leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify,